Very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to webinar series being organized by IKP Prime and Avishkaran and the Vishwa Incubator. Today, our speaker is Dr. Sanjay Saxena, and we have specially focused today's webinar about the academic entrepreneurs based on the feedback we received from various institutes. And just before introducing our speaker, there are few small announcements with reference to BIRAC programs only. So as you know, from January 1st to February 15th, the BIRAC BIZ program is going on. And University of Hyderabad, as the associate partner with IKP, is organizing a webinar on 9th, and please feel free to register. And Apurva can post the link in the chat box. Similarly, on the January 26th, our Prime Minister announced the GenCare Amrit Grant Challenge Program. This is to support 75 startups working in the digital health space, and to create awareness and about various verticals and the 6 subdivisions which are being supported, starting from healthcare data collection to predictive analysis and healthcare delivery systems. So please feel free to register for the webinars. The team from BIRAC and the other partners and the experts will be joining, who can clarify your doubts. And this is a simple application. So there are 3 types of grants are there in this. One is early stage, idea stage programs, and one is advanced, and next is the late stage, which are in the implementation. So please feel free to browse the BIRAC website for the same. And I will request Apurva to share the GenCare webinar registration form as well. And I request the Prime team to allow the people in the waiting room. And most of you aware of our speaker, Dr. Sanjay Saxena. He is responsible for the grant management at BIRAC for various schemes like SBI, RI, BIPP, PACE, and SPARSH programs. These are all some of the best programs working actually in the innovation, not just in terms of BIRAC, but in the entire innovation space. And today the talk, as he mentioned, will be about PACE and academic innovation research. To introduce about sir, he is also the nodal officer for the technical matters related to the agriculture sciences in the BIRAC, and he headed the TERI Micropropagation Technology Park for over a decade, and he also worked as a head for Center for Bioresource and Biotechnology at TERI University. And to his credit, he has more than 35 research publications, and some of you might have interacted with him in various capacities. Thank you very much, sir, for your time, and I will request Hema to share the presentation.
As you are aware that BIRAC, or Biotechnology Industry Research Council, is basically, like a Government of India enterprise and a not-for-profit company, which was set up by Department of Biotechnology in 2012. So it's roughly 10 years that the company has been in existence. And it was set up primarily to deal with the challenges faced by the biotech sector, especially the biotech industry. See, academia is something which has been continuously getting support from various ministries and other organizations, but for industry, the opportunities were very limited when this company was set up. That's about 10 years back. We all know the challenges faced by the biotech sector, that it's highly investment intensive. There is a lot of risks involved, and fact remains that the gestation periods are pretty long. And after putting all this, the success rate as compared to other sectors is relatively low. But those who are successful, it's highly rewarding. So it was with this intention that BIRAC was set up, that in the initial years, the focus was totally towards supporting the entrepreneurs, SMEs, and startups. But about 3-4 years back, BIRAC decided also to support academia. So while we have a long experience dealing with the industry, so far as academia is concerned, it's only in last 3-4 years that we have started supporting academic institutions. Now, so far as support from BIRAC is concerned, besides providing grants and funding, BIRAC is also into providing incubation support, mentorship, etc., etc. Since the time is short, I'm not going to get into the various activities undertaken by BIRAC, but focus more on the funding that is available or other opportunities that are available for the academic institution. Coming down to the funding assistance that is available from BIRAC, just to give you an idea of whom do we support. So basically, these can be clubbed into three categories. One is the individuals, the other is the startup or the companies, and third is the academic institutions, which would include research institutions, universities, NGOs, societies, etc. And coming down to what do we support, it is right from the ideation stage till the commercialization. There are different schemes available, both for academia as well as for the industry, to take care of this path right from idea to commercialization stage. Next slide, please. Not getting into the other schemes, coming straight to something that would be of interest to academia. PACE is the scheme. PACE is promoting academic research conversion to enterprise. This is the scheme which was, I think it was in 2017, about 4.5 years back, that we started with the scheme, which is primarily aimed towards encouraging and supporting academia to develop biotechnological products and technologies. Now, this PACE scheme has got two components. The first component is the AIR scheme, the Academic Innovation Research, which basically promotes development of proof of concept for a project or a technology. So this is, when I say development of proof of concept, means the early stage research, and the primary applicant, which is an academia in this case, has the opportunity to involve another academic partner or an industry as a collaborator. So academia remains the primary applicant. With another academic partner or an industry, one could submit a proposal, and this is primarily aimed towards developing proof of concept, that is up to TRL 3 stage. Now, once this proof of concept has been generated, we have got another scheme, what we call it as the contract research scheme, which is aimed towards validating the process or a prototype that has been developed by the academia by an industrial partner. Because see, the thing is that whatever is developed by the academia, the industry is not going to accept it just like that unless and until it has been adequately validated. So contract research schemes provide that opportunity of validating this technology that has been developed by the academia. So if you see the overall structure of PACE, it covers right from developing proof of concept up to the validation. And once the technology has been validated by the industry, then the industry can take advantage of our other schemes and submit proposals to take the technology even further. We have got SIBRI and the BIPP scheme. So this is primarily aimed towards academia, and once the technology has been validated, then there are other schemes to take care of. Next slide, please. This is to give you an idea about the different stages of technology readiness level. See, TRL is something I'm sure you all would be aware of. TRL is technology readiness level. We have got TRL 1 to TRL 9. TRL 1 basically refers to the ideation stage, and then you move forward towards generating proof of principle, then proof of concept, later stage, early stage research, and then the validation TRL 8 refers to the pre-commercialization, and finally TRL 9 refers to the commercialization stage. So the ARS scheme is primarily meant for TRL 1 to TRL 3 or 4. Now, if you could go beyond TRL 4, you are welcome. We would be happy if somebody is able to go beyond TRL 4 stage, but the expectation from the project would be that at least at the end of the project, the product or the technology must attain TRL 3 or 4 stage. Now, once that has been attained, the CRS scheme takes over, and from proof of concept right up to the pre-commercialization stage is supported under the CRS program. Next slide, please. To give you an idea what kind of projects do we support under the ARS scheme. Important thing is that projects should have a well-established proof of principle. This is the basic requirement for supporting a project under the ARS scheme. Now, the thing is that if we do receive proposals at times which says literature survey or hiring of a staff as one of the major activities or creating infrastructures, such projects are strictly no-no. And as I have indicated in the slide, basic and exploratory research is something we don't support. What we need to support a project is that some basic work must have been done and a proof of principle must be available with the PI. Another aspect that is looked into while supporting the project is that the project must have some social relevance or should have some commercial potential. So if a project is without any social relevance or does not have enough commercial potential, it's most unlikely that it will get supported. So the support is provided both for developing a product or it could even be a technology, either way. There is a ceiling on the duration of the project. Earlier it was 24 months, but from last year, ever since COVID came, we have increased the duration of the project up to 24 months. So while you decide on the research problem, please keep this factor in mind that you are able to generate enough output within the 24 months. Because there are some very interesting research studies, no doubt about it, but if they are of, say, 36 months or are going to take longer, it's unlikely those projects be supported. There is also a ceiling on the total funding that is available from BIRAC under this scheme. The project cannot exceed more than 50 lakhs. That is the maximum that can be awarded under this scheme. And there is also a ceiling on the non-recurring component that it must not be more than 10% of the total project cost. Now, when I say 50 lakhs of rupees, this is not for the primary applicant alone. This cost must not exceed 50 lakhs under any circumstances. So far as the IPR is concerned, the IP rights will remain with the academia. But in case if you have an industrial partner, we leave it for the two applicants to take a call. BIRAC is not going to intervene. It's purely an understanding between the academic institution and the industry. How do they propose to share the IP rights? There won't be any intervention from BIRAC side. We don't have any requirement. IP rights will remain with either academia or between the two. Next slide, please. Coming down to who can apply under this scheme, it is open to both public as well as private academic institutions, universities, NGOs, research foundations, trust societies, etc. Anybody can avail this opportunity. They are entitled to apply under this CRS scheme, but the important thing is that have a well-established support system for research. So even colleges, so long as they are recognized by the UGC, they can also apply. But the important thing is they should have very good research base available at the center where they propose to execute the project. And as I mentioned earlier, you have the option to apply either individually or jointly with another academic or an industrial partner. Now, so far as the academia is concerned, either public or private or university, etc., they must be properly registered and accredited from a government body like UGC, AICTE, CSIR, etc. So it must be a recognized body. Then only they are eligible to apply under the CRS scheme. Next slide, please. Coming down to the companies, if you are having company as a collaborator, then it may please be noted that the company must be incorporated under the Companies Act of 2013, and it must be an Indian company. This is very important. And when we say Indian company, that means that 51% of the shares of the company must be held by Indian passport holders. PIO and NRIs and OCI, etc., are not taken as Indian citizens. They must be Indian passport holders. And I would urge those who are attending this webinar to please take note of it, that before you select a company as a collaborator, please ensure this, because there are several instances in past where at a later stage it has been found that the company does not have 51% Indian shareholding, and then in the process, it could not qualify for financial support from BIRAC. Also, it is important that the participating company should have adequate in-house research facility to implement the proposed study. And this may not be true for government institutions or universities, but certainly in case of private universities, we do undertake a site visit to experts, technical experts, as well as financial experts before the project is awarded, would undertake a site visit to ensure that the applicant has adequate in-house facility to execute the research project. Now, in case that facility is not available, then it is important that the participating company is incubated in any of the recognized incubation facility. That doesn't necessarily mean that it should be a BIRAC center. It could be any incubation facility recognized by Government of India. Next slide, please. This is something that we have introduced from last year because in each call we were getting as many as 200 projects under CRS scheme. Since the cake size is limited and we were flooded with applications. In fact, when we announce a call, it's invariably a joint call of PACE and I4. I4 is basically BIPP and CRS schemes. So in every call, we were getting as many as 350, 400 proposals. So from last year, we have introduced certain new eligibility criteria to qualify for CRS scheme. PI should be a regular faculty. If the person or the primary applicant is holding a temporary position, I'm afraid he or she will not be eligible to apply under the CRS scheme. It is also important the PI must have executed at least one extramural funded project. Please take note, we are not talking of project which is internally supported, but an extramural funded project. And this project must be in the same research area in which the proposal has been submitted. Now, earlier we were insisting on same research area, but lately, we have put similar also, because if somebody has to submit a project, for example, in the area of COVID, which is a recent phenomena, obviously, it's unlikely that any of the faculty would have executed an extramural project earlier. So even if somebody has been working in the area of viruses, we would consider it as, for supporting under the CRS scheme. Important thing is that this project must be funded by either a government funding agency or an industry with a minimum duration of 3 years. Now, here again, when we were interacting with academic institutions, we realized that some of the institutions have this problem that they do not have a research project of 3 years. So then we made some amendments. We said, okay, fine, even if it is cumulative. So that would mean that if you have executed 2 projects with a cumulative duration of 3 years, even that would be acceptable to us. So suppose you have got one project of 2 years, another project of 1.5, you qualify to apply under the CRS scheme. Now, you may be wondering, how did we arrive at this figure of 3 years? It's basically to ensure that the person who is the PI and is responsible for executing the project has enough experience to undertake that study. On the same lines, the next clause was added that the PI must have authored at least one publication which is indexed as first or corresponding authors, because initially we were having only first author, but then in certain universities it is seen that the first author is invariably a student and the corresponding author is the one who is the faculty. So this was again amended, and now it is that the PI should either be a first or a corresponding author. The same applies for the patents. And needless to mention that here when we are describing things, it basically means that everything should be related to the research project that you are submitting. So if you've got several other publications, that would really matter much. Important thing is that these publications should be in the similar research area of the proposed project. Next. This is one very important aspect, that proof of principle and preliminary data that has been generated by the applicant must be submitted in the application form. Very often we confront with this situation that not enough is included in the application form, and later on when we convey the decision, it's a little disappointing for the applicant. But the fact of the matter is that unless and until this information is included in the application form, the reviewers won't come to know at what stage you are. So it's the application form should be very carefully written. I'm sure that because of patent and other reasons, you may not like to share everything, but there should be something. You may not reveal the exact figures, but enough information should be there that infuses confidence in the mind of the reviewers that yes, the PI has done enough work and should be, supported. Equally important is the nature of the research problem, because as I mentioned earlier, that basic research is not supported. So it's important that the choice of the research problem should be very carefully done. And finally, like on completion, we would expect the product or the technology that has been, or a prototype that is available after the completion of the project, that is after 24 months, is at a stage when it could be really validated by the industry. So the end point of CRS scheme becomes the starting point of the CRS scheme. So when you are submitting the proposal, please ensure that the final technical milestone that you are putting should reflect the readiness of the prototype or the technology for validation. So please, ensure that when you are writing down the milestones, take this thing into account, that the final milestone must reflect the readiness for validation. And to take, well, this is also important. Maybe when you go through the form, you will find it somewhere. It would be good to describe the strategy you have in mind to take the outcomes forward. That doesn't necessarily mean that at the end of TRL3, one would expect for a business plan as we normally expect with the BIPP and CRS schemes. Here, we are just looking at the potential, but some indications, some indicators may be included in the project proposal, which, goes to the credit of the applicant as we evaluate the proposals. Another thing that should be looked into is that we encourage applicants means basically the academia, to have an industrial partner from the very beginning. And when you are deciding on the company, please see that the collaborating company has been in existence for at least 5 years. Now, again, there is a reason of putting this figure because, in certain universities and academic institutions, it is seen that the faculty has also set up their own companies, and the applicant is working as a faculty. He or she is also having its own company. And just to show that there is a collaboration, the company is included as a partner. Now, that is something we don't want. It would be better that the company that you identify should be one which has been in existence for more than 5 years. That means it has enough experience to validate the technology that has been developed by the academia. Next slide, please. Okay, coming down to the CRS scheme, as I mentioned earlier, that CRS is primarily meant for taking, it is primarily meant for validation of the technology that has been developed by the academia by an industrial partner. So in case of CRS scheme, it is mandatory to have an industrial partner. Now, for air, it is not mandatory. You may or you may not have an industrial partner, but in case of CRS scheme, an industrial partner is a must. So when the funds are awarded under the CRS scheme, which is all in the form of a grant, it is given to both academia as well as the industry. The industrial partner is not expected to make any contribution in either of the two schemes. Now, this is a very important thing. Unlike BIPP and CRS, where the companies are expected to make contribution, but in both BIPP, in both air and CRS schemes, no contribution is expected from the companies that are participating in the project. As mentioned before, academia would be the primary applicant, And here again, you have the flexibility that you can have another academic partner. So there could be 2 academic institutions or more, along with an industrial partner, which is a must. Unlike CRS scheme, where there is a ceiling on the budget, that is of 50 lakhs, here there is no such ceiling. It could be of any value. The only thing is that there is no non-recurring costs given to the collaborating company. If it is an academic institution, yes, there is a provision. But if it is a company, then no non-recurring cost is given. But yes, all recurring cost is covered under the project cost. So far as the duration of the project is concerned, there is no ceiling, unlike CRS scheme where we have a ceiling of 24 months. Here, the duration of the study could be even longer. So far as the IP rights are concerned, it's right with the academia. However, the participating industry has the first right for refusal. Next slide, please. So far as the technical eligibility criteria for CRS is concerned, TRL3 is the bare minimum. And this should be adequately supported in the form of the data that you would be including in the application form. In case it's a follow-on funding, when we say follow-on funding means that you have already received funds under the ARS scheme, you have performed well, then in such a situation, the committee itself may say that, okay, it's an interesting project and it should be taken further. Then in that case, you are automatically asked to submit a proposal under the CRS scheme. So please keep this in mind that if your results under the AR schemes are good, under the AR project is good, automatically the committee may ask you to submit the next phase of funding under the CRS scheme. But when you are having a collaborating partner, please ensure that the company is the same as who had joined hands with you in the AR project. In case if you want to have a different collaborating partner, then you have to give adequate justification, because we would prefer that the same company who was working with you under the AR project continues in the CRS scheme as well. Next slide, please. Okay, I told you that SIBRI and BIPP schemes are primarily meant for industry, but still I would like to share some bit of information for these 2 schemes, because you may not, you means the academia need not be the primary applicant, but you could always be a collaborating partner in both the schemes. So there is a possibility that you may come across some startup, some industry where you feel you can contribute to the research activities undertaken by the industry. In such cases, the industry could submit a proposal under either of these 2 schemes, SIBRI or BIPP, and university or other academic institutions could serve as a collaborating partner. Now, I won't get much into the details of this. Just spend 2 minutes on the 2 schemes. SIBRI is basically meant for early stage research, and the end point of the proposed study is TRL 6 or below. Here, if the project cost is 50 lakhs, then the 100% grant is given by the BIRAC. But if the project cost exceeds 50 lakhs, then the company would be getting 50 lakhs plus 50% of the cost above 50 lakhs. To give you an example, if the total project cost is 100 lakhs, then 75 lakhs would be contributed by BIRAC, and 25 lakhs needs to be contributed by the company. However, if there is an academic partner involved, 100% funding in the form of grant will come from BIRAC. academic partner is not expected to make any contribution. In BIPP scheme, things are very similar to what I said about SIBRI. The only difference is that this is a scheme meant for late stage research, validation, and pre-commercialization. So the end point of the proposed study has to be TRL 7 or above. So far as the funding pattern is concerned, irrespective of the cost of the project, 50% of the cost, the total cost of the project has to be borne by the company. But here again, if there is an academic partner involved, funding will come from BIRAC. So we have got 3 calls for I4 scheme announced in each year. That's on 15th of February, 15th of June, and 15th of October. The calls are open for 45 days. And just for the information of the group, the next call would be announced in another 12 days from now. So those who are interested can take advantage of this. This is going to be a combined call for both BIPP, SIBRI, and the PACE scheme. Next slide, please. Well, won't get into the details, just rush through. As I said, there are 3 calls for proposals in a year. We cover all aspects of biotechnology, and whether it's healthcare or veterinary sciences, environment, industrial, agriculture. And so far as the eligibility criteria, etc. is concerned, I would request to please refer to the scheme documents for both these schemes, which are available on our BIRAC website. Not getting into the details of it, let's move on to the next slide, please. I would like to brief, I'm sorry, there's some problem here. We can move on to the next slide. See, the proposals are submitted online, and as soon as we receive the proposal, we carry out the eligibility check, and after the eligibility check, the proposals are then assigned to the subject experts. Each proposal is assigned to at least 4 or 5 reviewers who would be evaluating the proposal on the basis of their scientific merit, innovation level, commercial potential. They also look into the investigators' credentials. 2 important aspects: the regulatory issues and the preliminary work done. Now, regulatory issues is very important because it might be a very interesting research idea, but if it involves too many regulatory approvals, then it becomes difficult, because here we have a ceiling of 24 months. So if you end up spending 12 months in just securing regulatory approvals, the purpose gets defeated. So as much as possible, please don't pick up a research problem which involves too many regulatory issues. And as I had been emphasizing, please do indicate the preliminary work that you have done till the submission of the project. For this, adequate information should be included in the application form, because please remember, when these proposals are being evaluated, you are not there to give any explanation. The reviewers will go only by what you have included in the application form. So please fill up your application forms very carefully and in a timely manner. Several instances, in fact, what I must acknowledge, that 90% of the applications are submitted in last 2 days. And obviously, the quality of the proposals in such cases is badly affected. So please spend enough time while preparing the proposals so that, proper justice could be done to to the proposal. Another thing is that while submitting the proposal, please ensure that you are able to achieve something tangible during the duration of the project, maybe 24 months. in case of air, or little longer in case of CRS. Don't put up something where you are expecting results to come after 4 years or 5 years. Most likely the project will not get through. Next slide, please. Okay, this is to give you an idea about the 4 panels. The first stage. So as I was explaining, that after eligibility check, the proposals are assigned to the subject experts, and the comments received from the subject experts are then reviewed in the area review panel. Next slide, please. We have got 4 area review panels. Simultaneously, there is an internal assessment being done. There is a technical team which will look into the technical aspects of the project and will prepare an internal report. The financial team will take care of the IFR. Now, IFR is has a relevance only in case of private institutions, those institutions which are receiving support from the government, like central or the state universities and research institutes. There, this IFR or internal financial report is not prepared. It is only in case of a private institution that IFR is prepared. We also look into the IP issues associated with each proposal. So there are various teams within BIRAC who would be working on different aspects of proposal evaluation. Next slide, please. Okay, after the ARP, the matter is referred to the technical expert committee, which meets every month, at times twice a month. And the job of ARP is to review all the new proposals as well as the ongoing one. Not getting into the details of ongoing one because that may not be of much relevance here. So far as the new projects are concerned, the ARP will take a call whom to call for a presentation in the technical expert committee. So in the initial stages, there are 4 committees who would shortlist the proposals for a presentation. Now, this presentation would be made before the technical expert committee, and here onwards, everything is decided by the tech. Role of ARP is restricted only in the initial stages. That's the first meeting. Thereafter, it's all TEC. So you would be called for a presentation. If you clear that stage, the next step would be to undertake a site visit. And finally, if there are any clarifications, etc., everything would be examined by the TEC. So far as the air proposals are concerned, the technical expert committee would take a final decision on funding an air proposal. But if it is a CRS project, which would involve an industry, then it goes to the next stage, what we call it as the Apex committee. And this Apex committee is headed by Secretary Department of Biotechnology. So that's a separate committee which would look into the CRS project so far as the funding part is concerned. That's a final authority. But if it is an air proposal, the decision would be taken by tech itself. Next slide, please. Well, this is just to give you an idea. It is just a summary of what I have just spoken. You submit a proposal online. We carry out the eligibility check. The proposals are assigned to the subject experts. And then after that, they are called for a presentation by applicant to the technical expert committee. This is followed by a site visit. And finally, the project is recommended for funding by the Apex committee. This is for CRS, but in case of air, the final decision is taken by tech itself. Next slide, please. All right, this is something I think we can ignore. How much time do we have? Another 5-10 minutes? Dr. Hema, please confirm.
Yes, sir. So 5 minutes more, then we can have 5 or 10 minutes of
All right. Fine. So I will not get into the details of what happens once the project has been approved, but we'll talk about the disbursement pattern. See, the funds, unlike DBT, where they are or other funding agencies, where they are awarded on a yearly basis, that first year so much of grant, second year so much of grant. Here, in case of both AIR and CRS schemes, the funds are released by BIRAC on the basis of accomplishment of milestones. So, like the GLA may say that you would be getting 50 lakhs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the grantee would be getting 50 lakhs. That is the maximum amount you are entitled for, but the release of next installment is linked to the accomplishment of the technical milestone. So 30% of the project cost is given upfront, and thereafter, there are 3 technical milestones as indicated here. Installment number 2, 3, and 4 are all linked to the accomplishment of the milestone. So suppose the project is not progressing well, and after first milestone itself, the committee feels that not enough progress has been made, the committee can take a call to foreclose the project, or may say that, okay, fine, we are not going to release the funds because no technical progress has been made. So unlike other funding agencies where the funds are released once you receive a sanction order, here it is all linked to the success of the project. Next slide, please. This is the final one. Before submitting the proposal, here are some important aspects that you kindly keep in mind. Please go through the RFP document very carefully. We have been announcing calls thrice a year, and there are 2 types of calls being announced. One is a regular call where the applicant gets the flexibility to decide on a research problem of his or her choice. We do not impose any restrictions, but we are also announcing challenge calls, and a regular call and a challenge call will alternate. Challenge calls are those wherein we identify the research areas and the proposals are invited only in those selected areas. So especially when we are going to announce a challenge call, please do look into the RFP document. And I would like to mention that the call which is going to be announced on 15th of February is going to be a challenge call, which means that the proposals would be invited only in selected areas. So please go through the RFP document very carefully, as well as the scheme guidelines which are available on BIRAC website. Please ensure that the technical eligibility criteria which has been discussed in detail is met, because if there is no flexibility or compromise made so far as the technical eligibility criteria is concerned. Equally important is the selection of the collaborating company. Ensure that it is not a blacklisted company, because there are certain companies which have some financial issues and have been blacklisted on our website. By blacklisting, I mean that either they have not honored their financial commitments, or there are certain issues. So your choice for collaborator should be very carefully done. Also see that they have 51% shareholding and enough infrastructure to execute the project. For collaborating companies, it is important to see to have their own research labs, or ensure that they are incubated in a regular incubators which have been set up by the government. So far as the selection of the research problem goes, again, I'm just reiterating that please see that the research problem has a social or a commercial relevance. It is addressing the unfulfilled needs or an import. It is leading to an import substitute. Also, although not mentioned here, I would like to submit that if somebody wants to venture into a totally new area, upcoming technologies, even such technologies, such research projects are also supported. I missed that. I should have mentioned it here. So upcoming research areas also get supported under the CRS scheme, not CRS, but under AR. Then IP and regulatory, I have already mentioned. And finally, don't wait for the last date for submission of proposals. Very often we have these complaints coming up, the server went down, there was internet or the connectivity issue, blah, blah, blah. But please, under no circumstances, I repeat, under no circumstances, the last date for submission of proposal will be extended. So please submit your proposals in a timely manner. The call is open for 45 days, is a reasonable time that is available for the applicants, and please see that the proposals are timely submitted much before the deadline. So that is all from my side. I have tried to focus only on schemes that are related to academia. If you have any query, you are welcome to write to us. Would be happy to respond. And now would be happy to take up questions in case if there are any.
Thank you very much, sir. I think actually the participants have asked several questions, and you have covered most of them. I will just quickly read the answer from what sir has explained. In case if there is any further question on the subject, I request the participant to unmute and directly ask. So one question is, are the private institutes treated at par with the government institutes?
Surely.
So
we do not discriminate. We do not discriminate. The only difference is that in case of private institute, there would be an FDD carried out to see that they have enough resources and to ensure the ability of the participating institute or university to undertake the study. Now, if it is a project being submitted by IIT, it defies all logic to undertake a site visit. We don't have to do that. But certainly, if it is a private organization, then the guidelines do demand that a FDD and a technical site visit be undertaken. But there is no discrimination so far as the award of the project is concerned.
Thank you, sir. So as sir mentioned, the private organizations or the institutes need to have UGC certification or the DSR recognition. So which is essential.
Specific requirements have to be met.
Yes.
Those specific requirements.
So otherwise there is no other discrimination.
No.
And one more. So please wait, we will take the questions from the chat box itself.
Sure.
And if a faculty want to take the technology development until the technology transfer, so what are the schemes? I think, sir has covered that point also, that initially the AAR scheme is there for early level, the early tier levels, the technology ready levels. And I request Apurva to share the link with all the, BIRAC related information, which is put in a folder. Of course, you can visit the BIRAC website. There are tier levels very clearly defined for each vertical sir has mentioned. So
if it is up to TRL 3, it is here. And if it goes beyond TRL 3, you have got CRS available.
And is there any possibility of considering chemistry related projects to BIRAC?
See, the thing is that we are not worried the background of the PI that way, but the project that has been submitted must have some biotech component, because BIRAC supports only biotech related activities. So if the PI has a chemistry background, because there are several instances, especially in case of devices and diagnostics, etc., where the PIs are from engineering background. Because, for example, if you are submitting a proposal to develop a sensor, obviously it's unlikely that you would be having a biotech background, and most probably, you would be having some engineering background. But then there is always a possibility of having a collaborator from biological sciences who would ensure that the technology that has been developed by the engineer addresses the final function. So, like if it's a device, for example, if it is in the area of agriculture, you have come up with a technique that helps, or a sensor which helps to determine the moisture level in the soil. Now, the engineer can take care of the development of sensor part, all the structuring and prototype development, but the validation could be done with the help of a biologist who would take it to the field, see what kind of impact it has on the field level, the growing of plants, etc., etc. So it's unlikely that one person will have all the capability, but you can always build a research team, because we will go by the entire team, what sort of expertise is available with that team. And it could have people from different background, different disciplines. And if it is not available within the institute, you have the flexibility to approach another institute and have them as a collaborator. So several options are available. So there won't be any biasness that yes, it has to be a biotechnologist. Even chemists are welcome to submit proposals so long as the study itself has a biotech component.
Thank you, sir. So the point is very clear. The experts from any field can apply as long as the impact is in the fields that are given by the BIRAC. So for example, for the challenge cars, they are very defined. For the regular cars, it is very broad in the area of life sciences. And just for the scale, since we are running out of time, so we will skip the general questions and take the specific ones. And Pratik from Vishwa TBI and Kiran from Avishkar, Naiper, who are handling the webinar series, they will be, you can reach to them, and they have already connected some of the faculty members with IKP Prime Team, the IKP Technology Transfer Office. They'll be very happy to help, and I will quickly read, some of the questions. Sir, I hope it is okay if we take another 10 minutes.
Sure. No problem.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Okay.
I see a question here that for an academic institute, big grant is better suited or CRS scheme? Now, see, here is primarily for academia, and big is meant for, like there the individual can apply, but here the project is awarded to the institute. Whenever a year project is awarded, it is awarded to a particular institute with, like the flexibility of changing of PI at a later stage also. So suppose one is working in a particular institute, and after 6 months, the person gets transferred to some other organization. The academic institute to which the project has been awarded can depute another researcher from the same organization to assume the responsibility of the PI. Although the technical expert committee would again see that whether the new person who's going to assume that responsibility has that enough experience to execute the study or not, but that flexibility is available.
And also in the BIZ, the faculty must form the companies now.
That's right. Here, as you must have noticed, it's a very different path. The two schemes cater to very different target groups.
And the next question is, can the project completed in the AIR scheme can be applied to the CRS for the next level? I think the answer is clear, as sir has mentioned.
See, if you have all kind of options. You can apply directly under the AIR scheme. You can directly apply under the CRS scheme. It is not necessary that you first have to apply here, then only you become eligible for CRS. No, you have that flexibility. If you have if you feel that you are already at a stage where the technology could be validated by the industry, directly submit the proposal under CRS. Another thing is that in case you have an year proposal and after 24 months or for a shorter duration project, if the committee feels that yes, this is a very interesting piece of work, the committee itself may ask the PI to submit a proposal, and then in such cases, wherever a follow-on project is awarded, then you don't have to wait for the challenge call or a regular call. It doesn't really matter. Automatically, a link is created and you would be asked to submit a proposal. So a lot depends on the output or the outcome of your study. If you do it well, the results are interesting, automatically an opportunity is created.
So in all the BIRAC programs, the monitoring and the mentoring committees take all the things very seriously. So when you are submitting a review report, it's very important you include all this data and so that they can recommend to the next level. And going to the next question, is there any weightage to the institute? No. So the project is evaluated based on the
merit of
scientific merit, not from the which institute it is coming. Is there any limit from the institute? No. From any institute, any number of people can apply. Each proposal will be treated separately. And as I mentioned, it will be purely on the merit basis, not the institute, not the PI. Without prior work, can they apply? No. Clearly,
but you can apply, but it will not qualify because that's a basic requirement.
Yes. So the proof of science is very essential for the project. So you need to have the preliminary data supporting. This is not a regular research funding, but this is mainly for the faculty members who have conducted some research and want to translate that within industry or independently. So I think, most of the points are very well covered. And thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Pleasure.
And I just want to mention that. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Any more questions? Well, even if you feel like, at a later stage, if you have any doubts, please feel free to write to us. You will get an immediate response. I can assure you that.
So if anybody has a question, please unmute yourself and ask for the same.
See, intentionally, I have avoided, describing BIPP and CRS scheme because that may not be of much relevance to this group. But the details are available, and as I mentioned, that the academic institutions can, participate even in these two schemes as collaborator, not as the primary applicant. So please keep that option open. Like it's not to completely disregard those schemes. Yeah. Any more questions?
So in absence of any further questions, so please write to us and we will be very happy. And as always, IKP Prime team, when they are interacting with respective members, as I mentioned, Pratik at
good evening, sir. One small query.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, recently in October, our project has been shortlisted and we presented. We got a message like some creativity has to be improved. So shall I apply same project with modifications?
Yeah, see what happens is that whenever a project is rejected by BIRAC, we try to give you the deficiencies and the reasons because of which it has been rejected. So you are free to submit the same proposal again. At the same time, you ensure that you address all the deficiencies or the clarifications or what was missing in the previous proposal. So we don't restrict you from submitting the same proposal, but whatever was missing, please address those queries and submit it afresh.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much.
So most of them are working with the IKP Prime, the IKP Technology Transfer Office. Okay. And the new faculty who have applied, and we have their email IDs. We will share the recording with all the participants, and IKP Prime team will be very happy to help the faculty members in improving the applications. And as sir mentioned, several places there will be drawbacks in terms of not paying attention to certain details like intellectual property right So our team will be very happy. Please reach out to Dr. Hema and other members of the IKP Prime team, IKP@IKP Knowledge Park. So please feel free to write with them. We intentionally avoided, BAZ related queries. So we thought this will be more focused. So, but if you have any queries, please write to teambaz@ikpknowledgepark.com. And I would like to thank all the incubation centers and the academic institutes who are partnering in this webinar series. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Really.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And last time, thank you, everyone. You are free to leave. And I just want to mention a few points, sir. Vinita has organized, several programs where, particularly because the IP related queries are not being addressed by faculty and even, academic proposals. And Amit also mentioned that he'll be very happy to organize a specific program. So if there are enough people, we will come back and request. And there are also regularly they are organized by BIRAC. So you don't have to wait for anything. You can directly apply. And February 11th, I think there is a program coming about IP related one.
Sure. And, one thing I would like to mention here that whenever the proposal is submitted, we expect the grantee, the applicants to indicate the kind of regulatory requirements as they see it. But would like to inform you that every proposal has to pass through regulatory committee. So there we look into all the regulatory requirements that the applicant would be requiring during the course of the study. So we do tell this well in advance to the applicant that what sort of regulatory requirements would be needed at different stages, like before technical milestone 1, which are the regulatory approvals you must have. Similarly for technical milestone 2 and 3. So, it's simultaneously, we do try to create awareness among the applicants also that they should be conscious about this fact, because many times they just submit the proposal without paying much attention to the regulatory and the IP part. So just wanted to share that.
And just want to add, there is a program called First Hub by BIRAC and the various regulatory agencies. If you think you are stuck somewhere, please reach out to IKP-TTO and they will be very happy to explain. You can also search for the same on the BIRAC website. So basically, you can directly talk with the regulatory bodies about your questions. It's very helpful. Some of the faculty members and the startups have benefited very. It saves a lot of time because you will directly get the answer from the CDSCO and the ICMR representatives.
Yeah, that's a First Hub program. So,
yes,
you have the opportunity to directly, interact with the representatives from the regulatory bodies.
Once again, thank you, everyone. Please feel free to reach out ikp-TTO@ikpknowledgepark.com for additional details. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.